Amogus.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Lost Bits, the series where we explore video game content that goes unused, altered, and unseen. So a few months back, I made a really short video covering some unused content in both the Henry Stickmin Collection as well as the fairly obscure indie title, Among Us. Now, the peak of Among Us hype is certainly behind us now, as we're currently in the post-ironic Among Us memes phase.
You guys, right now, I have the Among Us potion, and I'm about to drink it.
Wait, Schlatt, don't drink it!
Too late now!
Oh no! Schlatt, you don't look so good.
No.
Oh no, what's going on?
But nonetheless, since my last video, there's been a whole bunch of newly documented bits of unused content for both games. So I wanted to revisit the two and give them a more proper and definitive video. Anyways, let's get to it. Smash like if you're not sussy. It's time to Amogus our way into some lost bits. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was really hard to say. I'm sure those jokes will age extremely well. Alright, first let's start off with the Henry Stickmin Collection, as it has way more stuff for us to talk about here. To start off, in my first Lost Bits video on this game, I mentioned that the remade collection still contained unused leftover graphics from the original releases of the Breaking the Bank episode. Well, it turns out there are actually more unused original leftovers for the rest of the original 5 episodes too. For escaping the prison, there's the original rope, plunger and plungers, parachute, opacinator, crowbar, and jetpack. Then for stealing the diamond, there's the shrink ray, pick, liquidificator, jump hoppers, anti-gravity cap. There's the old check mark for clicking on a new painting, as well as the original graphics of the 300 and Luigi paintings, the spiky, definitely not Bowser shell, this pillar and museum post, as well as the original aftermath scene after the shoot the whoop fail in the stage. Gotta say, this one definitely got a nice glow up. Then lastly, for infiltrating the airship, there are leftover original graphics for the expanding foam, and for fleeing the complex, there's this original design of the cell doors. Next, the Henry Stickmin Collection has several graphics that go completely unused in the game. First up is this set of early placeholder graphics for the episode icons as seen in the achievements and bios menu. With the exception of the Breaking the Bank icon, which looks a little bit more complete, the rest are clearly unfinished with very crudely drawn artwork and equally messy level abbreviation text. Interestingly though, the last icon for completing the mission still has question marks for the abbreviated name, suggesting that at this point in development, whenever these placeholder graphics were drawn up, the name of the final chapter still hadn't been finalized. Also in the same placeholder vein, there are more unused placeholder graphics for both the Fleeing the Complex and Completing the Mission episodes respectively. For Fleeing the Complex, there are several placeholder letter graphics, A through E, as well as AD or AP. These are apparently associated with the map animation seen in the episode. Then, for Completing the Mission, there are these text graphics for intro, final, line, and random. It is currently unknown what exactly the line and random graphics were meant for, but it's believed that the intro and final ones were used by the developers for labeling animations for the introductions and endings to each route in this episode. Next, we got this unused graphic and associated animation for an electroshock choice that would have been offered to the player at some point in completing the mission, with some speculating it was meant to appear when Henry is under the rocket in the top hat route. Then next are 2 unused images that are thought to have been used as reference images when drawing assets for the game. First is this image of a Lamborghini that's thought to have been the basis of the golden Lambo as seen in the CTM cleaning 'em out ending. And next, there's this unused image of a certain champion of Pogs. Well, I guess former champion now. This fella here was likely the basis for the redrawn PogChamp scene in the Revenged route. Next up is this unused animation of Henry seemingly rolling his eyes. Based on the background here, this was likely meant to be used during the fail segment in completing the mission's Top Hat 4 life route, where Henry watches a YouTube walkthrough that goes on for way too long. Next is another unused segment of an animation, and this is for the fail towards the end of the Fleeing the Complex chapter, where the characters mistakenly get into a truck belonging to the wall. In the final versions of both the original as well as the remake, the game just cuts to black as it's revealed that the getaway wasn't going as planned, but in this unused segment of the animation, it was going to be revealed that a guard was in fact driving the truck. I can't really think of a reason why this decision would be made to omit this reveal. Oh yeah, also part of this animation is a scrapped placeholder sketch of the interior of the truck, suggesting that maybe instead of complete darkness, there was once a plan to show all the characters together inside or something. Now this last graphic isn't exactly unused, but it can only be seen in the game for a fraction of a second, so I'm sure most people that played this chapter didn't get a good look at it. Now this is what I believe is a real image of the classic internet meme Shoop da Whoop. I'm sure many of the younglings have no idea what this is. Anyway, yeah, this strange image is seen for only a split second in this section of the Jewel Baron route in completing the mission, but if you blink, you'll miss it. So I mentioned some of the unused placeholder graphics earlier, but there are actually a whole bunch more placeholder graphics for various other scenes in the game. For example, there are several placeholder graphics used for animating Henry's acrobatics in fleeing the complex. I mean, they are placeholders, but it's not like Henry is that much more detailed than these anyway. There's also placeholder sketches of Henry's knee of justice from fleeing the complex, sketches of the truck chase scene, a sketch of Henry's pardon papers seen in infiltrating the airship, early sketches of the tank gun, and early sketches of Ellie's diversion from completing the mission, and more. Now for that last one, interestingly, it can also be found just outside the player's view off screen in this shot of the top hats. And this is actually the first of several instances where some hidden stuff can be found just outside the player's view during the game. These include some off-screen chairs found in the airship bridge, a green X outside the complex here, some layout notes made by the developer seen off-screen, seen here above the sniper tower. There's this placeholder crystal hidden outside of view here. Then, although the graphic of this Among Us cameo poster is seen in this room, there's actually a separate unused sprite of it seen out of view, and it looks like this might have been the original graphic, which was then modified to how it's seen here. Next is an off-screen original version of the SS Stickmin ship that's hidden in the same screen as the new one. And then lastly, there's this never normally seen graphic of a key inserted in a keyhole. Now this key was apparently meant to have been used during the CCC cutscene in completing the mission, but oddly enough, it only appears off-screen during the moon fail in that same episode. Now before we move on to Among Us, lastly for Henry Stickmin, we got a few bits of text that never normally go used. We got null, a pretty typical placeholder text string. Then there's Candera or Candara 2635, as well as Dilenia. Not exactly clear what these last two are meant for, but they're all called by the game in certain animations. And last up are two unused bios for a policeman and prison guard, and these were meant for the characters Kev Portley and Ryan Goldman. Now it's not exactly clear why these were changed, but my guess is that maybe these ones were deemed a little bit too basic and they just needed to be touched up a bit. And now let's move on to probably the most popular game of the last year or so, Among Us. Not nearly as much content with this game, but let's dive on in. First up, a whole bunch of you guys commented this on my last video, but there's actually still, at least as of the making of this video, an unused crewmate color. Well, maybe unused isn't the proper word, as it is seen in the game when a new player is joining a lobby, but it's unused in the sense that it's not normally selectable as a playable color. Anyways, this color is known as Forte Green, and it's a slightly different shade of green than the one that is selectable in the game. The name Forte Green is also thought to be a reference to Forte Base, one of the game's programmers. Now next, we got several hats that can't normally be obtained, at least not yet. These are a traffic cone, a drinking cap, as well as wearing a pot. And interestingly, there are also unused associated graphics for the cone and pot for when the players climb a ladder in the airship map. Since these hats are more or less complete and can even be worn in-game via some hacking, I'd be willing to bet these will probably get added into the game at some point in the future. Then, while on the theme of unused graphics, there are also some more meant for the voting screen. Here we can see some early, now unused graphics of the confirmation and cancellation buttons, a star that's believed to have been the original indicator for who has already voted, as well as these fellas that were early graphics for the countdown timer. Next up is an unused cursor that was scrapped from the Nintendo Switch release of this game, as it was seen in the release trailer. According to the developers, initially this cursor was going to be a replacement for touch controls in handheld mode for those that didn't want to use the touchscreen. However, it was apparently deemed too slow for most tasks, and as such, it was scrapped in favor of just using the touch or button controls. Next, we got two unused sounds left in the game. The first of these is an old sound that used to play when too many players would disconnect from a game, resulting in a tie. After an update back in March 2020, disconnected players were instead treated as dead rather than just disappearing, making it impossible for a tie to ever occur now, leaving this sound unused. And the other sound is an unused version of the sound the imposter makes when jumping into the holes in the Polis map. Moving on, there's one line of unused text here, and it reads, "You're dead. Enjoy the chaos." It's believed that this was the original message that was going to be displayed above the player's tasks after getting bamboozled by the imposter. This was probably changed to make it more clear that you actually still need to finish up your tasks in order to help your team win. And last up for this video is a neat little secret hidden in the Polis map. Now, a few months ago, it was revealed by the developers of Among Us that there's a secret white crewmate found hidden in one of the bathroom stalls in the Polis map. And she says from Boundary Break was also able to show this off even better when he rotated the camera around to get a better look. It's a cool little secret, but basically impossible to see without a little bit of modding. And with that, I think I'm all Among Us'd out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Check out some more of my lost bits while you're here. And as always, guys, thank you all so much for watching today, and I will see you in a bit.